Hello there, welcome to Alvarez's Diecast Customs. Today we're going to be working on this Hot Wheels Nissan GTR. I do like my Japanese import cars like these. It's quite a good candidate for a good custom as well. As you can see on the rear lights on this thing, they look like they're falling off. So yep, a good one for a good makeover. It looks a bit messy as it is. Overall, it's all pretty good. I do like the colour of it in that sort of pearlescent white. Not too keen on the decals, but never mind. Let's just take a closer look at it. I've already taken the time to drill the base out on this one. Start off with a 2mm drill bit and then work up to a 5mm to remove the main piece of the head off. And yeah, as you can see, those tail lights, not good. Overall, all pretty good all over it. Pretty solid. Just get this thing apart. There's our interior piece. Quite nicely detailed, but not that you can see a lot of it through those windows as they're so darkly smoked that you can't see much at all through them. There's also got the headlights attached to them as well, which is quite nice. But as you can see in the center of those windows, it's like a huge sort of divot thing, which the roof on the actual casting sits into. Really strange. Guess that's why the windows are so dark, because had they been perfectly clear, that would have been a really obvious sort of like lump inside of it that you'd see. So we won't be using these wheels either, so we'll just pop these off, bit of force, pops them straight out of the chassis here, pushes them past those little plastic teeth that hold them in. Won't be using them, we'll be using something else. So after a good bit of paint stripping, sat in a pot of paint stripper for about an hour, and this is what you're left with. And we're going with these wheels. I actually put up a vote on my Instagram page. I put up 3 pictures of this car with 3 sets of wheels. They've got these real riders here and 2 other pictures of it with some monoblock wheels. These real riders have ran away with the win, so we're picking those ones out to go with it. I'm just going to be going around doing some filing on this body, just cleaning up some of the edges and the rough spots and creases with this diamond file. Just going around cleaning all these edges up nicely. You see there's a bit of a crease on that rear quarter panel there. Spend a bit of time getting rid of that. On the rear there, a bit rough in some spots. I do enjoy sort of spending a bit of time filing my castings down with the customs I do. I do think it makes quite a big difference for the end product. It really sort of smooths out a lot of the things and just sharpens up some of the lines that you get. Just cleaning up some of the edges in the grille there. It had some flashing on the inside and around the headlights as well. Just really clean those up. Also around the wheel arches as well. A lot of people tend to forget about doing this sort of thing. In these wheel arches, there's sort of like little lumps and creases. Quite noticeable when you put the paint on. I definitely wanted to take care of that. So after that, I just went over the whole body with some emery paper, just smoothing the whole thing over. I also did some edges on the chassis as well, just to clean those up. There's a few folds and creases on that too. Get that all cleaned up, then we can paint it. So I've gone ahead and gone with this turquoise paint. This is a furniture paint, literally straight out of a spray can. It's enamel based, so it took a couple of days drying time before I was able to sort of handle it without making fingerprints in the paint. I also went over everything with a couple of coats of grey primer out of a spray can too. We're just going to go ahead and do some details with this. So I'll just be painting these wheels in now with some Revell silver. Just brushing it on. I went over with the primer as it allows brush painting to be a lot easier. The paint Sticks a lot better to the primer than it would to the raw plastic. So there we go, I've gone ahead and painted those up. Got a plan for those later on, I'll be back to those. Just going to be painting in the front grille area on the body in some black paint. Being enamel based paint, you don't exactly, with the turquoise, you don't exactly have to be very neat with your painting, as once this acrylic paint dries, like the black here, as you can see I've got it on the front little scoop bit there, it will scrape off very easily with a toothpick because it's on enamel paint. Chassis also, painting that in black. Not a lot of detail to the chassis of this thing. It's basically just big flat slab. All the engine details and things are hidden behind these sort of sheets that they cover the chassis on this one for aerodynamics. So yeah, not a lot of detail to be brought out on this one. Bit disappointing for me, really. I do like bringing out a lot of detail, but there just really isn't anything to this one. So on the wheels here, I'd be filling in the center parts of them in white. And in order to do this, I'll just be using it with a toothpick, just going around, dabbing a bit of paint and moving it around to where I need it with the toothpick. It's a very accurate way of painting little details like this, as opposed to using a brush. Find you have a bit more control for smaller things like this. So yeah, I went about and did all 4 wheels in this process. I also used a slightly off-white as well, not a pure bright white. And there we go. Do the rest of them. Tail lights also, I will be using this toothpick method. Just using some Tamiya clear red on top of some silver paint on the headlight, on the tail lights there. Literally just a dollop of red paint, and then gently maneuver it around in the crevice of the tail light until it fills in where I need it. There we go. So 4 of those are done. Paint this interior piece. Just going with a flat black with this one. As I said, you can't really see a lot of that detail in the interior through those windows. So I just gave it a quick lick of paint. Not a lot of detail to be brought out of it. Also, don't forget to do the wheel well sections on your interior part, painting those in black, as you sometimes can see them through the wheels. So I do like to take care of those little details just to tie everything in nicely. Makes them less obvious. Now onto our body here, it's time to get some decals on this. I've gone with some Hatsune Miku ones from Milo's Customs. Thought these would be a great candidate for this one. Just go about cutting these out of the sheet. Sort of do them in little steps. So I start off with this side one here. Use a good pair of scissors. You can use a scalpel, but sometimes I find the scalpel can sometimes tear the edges. So I like to use a good sharp pair of scissors instead. Find them a bit more accurate than a scalpel. So we'll just select this one off of the sheet and gently just go around the edges, just cutting it as close as possible to the actual decal image itself. Try not to be too intricate because it can cause some issues with tearing if you sort of do a lot of like cut ins and outs. So we sort of try and go around it smoothly. There we go, we're ready to set that in some water. I just place it into this little glass dish of water for about 30 seconds. Let that soak up nicely, and then the decal should be ready to remove off of the backing paper. I'll just use these little tweezers just to pull it out, then place it onto a tissue until I'm ready to use it. Back to the body, I'll just be using some decal fix as well to get it to adhere a lot better to the sort of curves and little creases on the body there. I use this Revell Decal softener. Give it a good dollop on the side there where I need to place the decal. And then we'll go for the decal. And you can just gently push it slightly away from the backing paper there. And then gently just push it off using this cotton bud. Adjust it slightly just to where you kind of need it lined up. Find finger works well for that. And once it's in the place you need it, just gently tap it with the cotton bud. It presses it down, gets it to stick a bit better. Got a bit of an overlap on the bottom there, but the decal softener will take care of that eventually once it starts softening the decal up nicely. I'll just give it a good coat of that again, let that dry, and then give it another coat, let that dry, and then give it another coat. Just keep going back for coats of that, and eventually the decal will soften up enough and sort of stick itself to the body and into the creases nicely. And occasionally just go over with the cotton bud now and then, just smoothing it in, pressing it into some areas where it's getting a bit of trouble getting in there. Bit of persistence and time, and you're left with a really smooth decal at the end of it. Just don't rush it. When you start rushing these things, you start wrecking them. So yeah, I spent my time doing that for about an hour afterwards. Now we're on to my favourite part, the Citadel Known Oil stuff. It's essentially just a black wash. I'll just be coating the entire interior and the chassis with this stuff. Even on top of a black paint like this, it does show up. It gives it a sort of like a textured look, almost like leather, which is perfect for what I need because that was my intentions, to try and make the interior sort of look leathery. And the chassis also gets coated with a good coat of Known Oil too. Such a versatile thing. Use it for everything. Just brings out details where they wouldn't normally sort of stand out. Could use it on like door lines and bonnet lines and whatever else. So effective. And we're about ready to put it all back together now. I've given it a good clear coat. Window piece, I did give that a clear coat. It's literally just Tamiya clear out of a pot, brushed on, and then left to dry. And this is what you're left with. So we'll pop that in the body to get that set up. Interior piece, as I said, literally just had a coat of Known Oil, and there you go. Come out really nicely, that did. There's that. And the wheels, actually gave those a quick coat of Known Oil, just on the silver part, not on the white part on the inserts. Make those stand out quite nicely and sort of make them a little bit more realistic. Chassis piece got a good coat of clear as well. Actually went with a matte clear this time, as I had a gloss clear malfunction where the can would not spray. So I ended up having to go with a matte coat for the meantime. I'm unable to get hold of any gloss coat this side of Christmas, so it's going to have to be the mat for the time being. Oh well. So I pop the screws in there. I like to use these 6mm self-tapping screws. I seem to have misplaced my bloody screwdriver again. That Super Pochaco's got it again. I'll be taking that off of her. I don't know what she does with it. She keeps taking the screwdriver, but I have no idea what she's using it for. Probably wouldn't want to know, actually. God knows what she's doing with it. Might need to wash my hands afterwards. Anyway, let's take a look at what we started with. As it was pretty cool. Just not really feeling that sort of red decal stripe down the centre, and the rear tail lights were having a stroke, so that needed sorting out. And here's what we ended up with. So yeah, it's a Hatsune Miku Nissan GTR in matte coat gloss, or matte coat varnish, I should say. Come out pretty cool, and a community choice off the wheels there. Don't worry, the mono blocks that didn't make it into this custom will be used on a later one. Yeah, quite pleased with how this one came out. Quite a simple build overall. Not a lot of detail to the body that you can really bring out on it. That's the trouble with a lot of these modern cars. They're just like sort of wedges, and there's not a lot of like chrome trim or anything you do on them. So it is really just down to the decals and the wheels that you can apply to them. That really brings out the detail. And the interior, like there was just no point in doing anything with that. You can't see it. But overall, yeah, pretty cool. I do like how the tail lights came out. I did have a slight issue with that matte coat clear that I used. It did crinkle slightly on the spoiler on the rear. I don't know why it did it, just localized into that area. Luckily it didn't affect the rest of the body, which could have been quite a stressful mistake if it did that, because I would have lost the decals again and I would have had to strip it. Anyway, I'll leave you with some more shots of it in the meantime, and I'll be back in a moment. So yeah, hope you've enjoyed watching me put this one back together. It's been a few weeks since my last custom. I needed a break of a couple of weeks or so, as I've changed my job since. I was doing night shifts for a while, and I was struggling with the sleeping patterns and just motivation to do a lot of customs. So I'm back to my normal day shifts, and hopefully things will pick up from now on. I've got a whole host of customs that I've lined up ready for now that I'm getting back into it. So hopefully you'll stick around for some of those in the coming month or early next year. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.